My name is Jack. You can call me Atlas. You can call me Katsukane, my league name. You can call me whatever you want. I'm here with my good friend Tucker Clark.
What's up? I'm Tucker. You call me Swilty. That's my league name. You call me whatever. Tucker works though.
Call
Um,
call him Daddy. That's what he likes the most.
that's I'm some people are into that. I will have you know that I am one of those people.
We are PG-13 pod, so keep your young children away from the stream. Anyway,
PG-13 some of the time.
mostly
Some of
are
the time.
mostly are.
Mostly are. And we got some R-rated things to say today
We do. There's
about
there's gonna be a lot of
week one
cussing. Yeah.
of the league championship series.
That's right. We're spring 2023. Gonna be breaking down all the games from the first week. Uh, we won't spend a lot of time on the not so great games, and we will probably only talk about mainly the bangers. The couple of the first games of the day, the powerhouse teams. So if you're a fucking Golden Guardians fan, hey, sorry about it. I don't know what to tell you. Your team stinks. That's
I got things to say about everybody. Obviously, yeah, I agree with you. I think we spend a lot of the time on kind of on the powerhouses, on the entertainment, on the high level performances and stuff like that. But I mean, if you look at some of these games, obviously, you want to try and pair up week one. You got Cloud9 to 100 Thieves. You got on day two, you got TSM Team Liquid. I know obviously TSM's not that serious of an organization
two
anymore,
two
but
oh
still.
2-0
Two,
TSM. Put some respect on that
a
that
you know
name.
what? And I have some stuff to say. And obviously when we get to day two, we'll talk about it.
hmm
Um, but I'm undecided yet. Obviously, yeah, we see 2-0, but I am undecided. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I'll give my way too early uh finals prediction. I'm gonna be honest. I think FlyQuest sweeps this league. I mean,
Yeah,
from what I saw from Prince and Vikla, this is a team that was built to compete at the highest level. And from what I've seen from the other teams so far, I don't know how much competition they're gonna run into. But let's go ahead. Let's jump right into these games. I just want to make a disclaimer. This is our first episode, so take it easy on the critiques. It's gonna be a little amateur hour here for the first time, but I think we'll be plenty entertaining enough for the people. So
okay, we're here to entertain. That's it.
that's
That's
right.
all we're here to do.
So first game of the day was Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. GMT. If you are a hardworking American on the East Coast, might have not been able to catch this whole game, so we'll do our best to explain what went on here. For me, my biggest note was Cassante might be the most broken champion Riot has ever released in pro play. I've got that
Yeah,
written in all bold caps right at the top.
I it's funny going watching through these VODs, because you see a lot of Casante, you see a lot of Jax. Evidently, we're gonna try and counter him with Jax, um, and just I don't know about you, but and obviously, and by the way, I've only been around the scene a few years. What, 3 years now? Obviously you've been around a lot longer.
Yeah.
Um, I have not seen anything like Casante, and this is pro play.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's sticking with me so far is that this is pro play, and I mean, and once we get into day two, uh, we'll talk about that fudge performance on Casante against Golden Guardians. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at a champ like Casante, especially with the draft that Cloud9
Mm-hmm.
had against 100 Thieves, um, you look at the 100 Thieves draft and you say, okay, you have comfort pick for closer, on Viego. You it does not look like it should be a blowout, and then Casante hits the rift and it's a blowout.
Well,
Um,
yeah. And so Fudge only played Cassante both games this weekend.
yeah,
And I do have a bit of a question forming in my head based on that. Are we are we sure? I mean, we saw some other people play Cassante this weekend, not to Fudge's level. I'm a little bit curious to know if it's really just Fudge has such a mastery of this champion that he doesn't make it look fair. Because, I mean, TSM Solo played Cassante. Someday played Cassante. Impact played Cassante. And maybe these guys aren't as well versed on the champion. Maybe they've been playing other stuff. But I mean, Solo made Cassante look like a balanced champion, and
Yeah.
and he was playing weak side Cassante. So maybe it's just Cloud9's funneling more resources. However, Fudge did take advantage of his laner's mistakes in both games, and you can kind of see in the 100 Thieves match if you watch the VOD, Tenacity in his first split. I mean, he's playing Jax or Nectin. These are aggressive top lane champs that want to win early, and they want to push their laner out. They want to freeze the wave. They want to gain a massive advantage so they can basically just win those side lane push whenever they want. Uh, 100 Thieves looked a little disjointed with the draft. They basically tunneled on the Azir support. They were convinced that the Azir support would counterpick the Heimerdinger support. And all C9 had to do was pick Wukong Akali. And what's Azir gonna do? He has one wall. It's his ultimate. He's not providing any damage, so he can't clean up any fights. It's not a good engage tool because you have a Viego. And I mean the comp is just it's kind of all over the place, and I think they were probably dominating games with Azir support and scrims. It was the hard counter to Heim or Dinger. They probably were just like, I think we just pick what we're most comfortable on. But I will say Cloud9 has more of an identity and more team cohesion. Remember, they're returning Berserker, Fudge, Sven, and Blabber. They've only replaced their mid laner. Whereas 100 Thieves, this is a brand new roster except for Closer. Closer's the only one they've retained. They've
Yeah.
brought Bjergsen and Doublelift back out of the retirement home, and then Busio and Tenacity are their quote unquote rookies. They've been floating around in the academy scene and challenger scene for a while, but uh yeah, I mean that's basically what I had for this game. I thought Bjergsen played well. Um he did what he could on Silas. I mean, I think Bjergsen's always been a very consistent player, at least in the LCS. Internationally, it's a different story, but we've got a whiles to go before that conversation. I don't want to see Doublelift on his return playing Varus. It's just not what I think a player like him is going to perform well on. You saw him getting caught out multiple times. He's getting chased down. It's Wukong Akali. They've got an Ashe to slow him. I mean, just not his best. I think Doublelift and Busio need to work on their synergy a lot more. I'm sure they'll get it together. 100 Thieves definitely seems like a scaling team. I could see them finishing top four by the end of the split. But just some growing pains, I think, overall. And I think C9 just had the better draft. They looked more comfortable. They knew what they wanted to do. And I didn't know anything much about Diplex. I don't know where he's from. I think
Let me take a look here.
he's from Germany. I don't remember what he played in. He played for Vitality B in EMEA last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah,
So,
he's a kid, man. He's 19.
yeah. And he might be the next Wonder Kid, next Bjergsen, maybe even. Uh, from what I heard, what I listened to, he loves melee mid laners. That's kind of
Yeah.
his bread and butter. So Silas, Akali, which are meta right now. Akali's probably always going to be meta. So and Silas as well. So I don't think he has much to worry about there. But he played well. I was surprised. C9 looks good. 2-0. 2-0 for C9. That was game
Yeah.
one. Go ahead.
Uh, no, I'm just a big 2-0 weekend for Cloud9, and I will say that if you look at even game two, for them the next day against GG, which we will get to, that was never really a game either.
Yeah.
And I think what's important to note about this 100 Thieves game against Cloud9 is that this was a very very slow game for both teams
Mhm.
um, until that first kill up top um, with Fudge against Tenacity.
Yeah.
Um, what I thought was really interesting about this game, and I think that from start to finish, obviously the narrative is, well, how are Doublelift and Bjergsen going to look?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, they're coming back from the retirement home. These are guys. Well, I mean, Doublelift has just been hanging out on a coach stream for a couple years. Bjergsen, obviously spent a year back in the league last year, or last split, and you saw a Bjergsen that we're kind of used to. I
Yeah.
think is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think if you take 100 Thieves, what you just want to split, a couple splits ago, um, frankly, looked like the best team equipped to do something at Worlds. Um, which obviously, we expect a speed run to the airport. That's nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
But they did look best equipped.
I agree.
But that's the thing about LCS. Um, I think that C9, I think you're right, had the better draft. It's hard to do much against Wukong and Akali. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, and even like I mentioned, when closers comfort pick on Viego. I agree with you. I don't know why Double Lift goes Varus. Um, you can easily go Zeri, which he
Which he
did
did
on day
game,
two,
yeah, day two.
and he looked fantastic.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting decision from 100 Thieves with their draft. In fact, I don't hate all five. The Azir support was a decision um, that Busio needs to be hung up.
Mm.
Um, but I also think it's okay, especially with a game like this, to take the game at face value. And you saw a team like C9 that is just comfortable. They look comfortable. They
Mm-hmm.
look better. They
Mm-hmm.
look elite. And you mentioned, we don't know if FlyQuest is going to have a competitor. The only team I see after week one that I can confidently say, this team may be a problem for FlyQuest come the later stages
Mm-hmm.
of the split is Cloud9.
I
Um,
think I'm on board with that, and I think Berserker is a big reason for that. But continue your point.
no, and I think you actually hit the point I was about to hit with a nail. Berserker on Ash, I think, is a fascinating pick because you have Heimerdinger as your support,
Mm-hmm.
who's gonna do some damage himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Ash, when you have a mid with a Kali, you have your jungler playing Wukong, you have your top laner playing Cassante. These are all people that are they're gonna get in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Taking your ADC, picking Ash, I think honestly that's a surprising balance that we don't see more.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the interesting part about that is that even late game, once we're all kitted, once this game is really, it's weird, man, because this game never felt like a game, and it's still pretty close, even getting into the 25th minute. It's a 3.4 K gold league for C9 at 22 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
which is not it's not insurmountable for 100 Thieves,
No.
but you get swept in a team fight. Well, the game's over,
Yeah.
and that's what I think is so confounding about 100 Thieves in this first game is that they did not come out and they didn't look comfortable. And I also, by the way, I think that's okay. I think this is one of those games that you can look back on and say, okay, let's come back tomorrow and see what 100 Thieves puts out. And they
Right.
put out, frankly, they arguably looked like the best team on day two,
Yeah, they
outside of
collected.
FlyQuest.
Right. They
Um,
collected themselves well
but
after
it's
that loss.
Immortals,
Yeah.
so and that's something that we'll get to as well. But yeah, man, I think game one, I obviously, C9 pretty much start to finish. This was a C9 game,
Mm-hmm.
even with that very slow start.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm interested to see what is it Diplex,
Diplex, I
Dplex.
think.
I'm interested to see what Diplex is able to keep going because I think that you up against Bjergsen to come out and put on that performance. Obviously, it's a Kali. Um, I would like to see what they go with for his draft throughout the split.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna stick with a Kali, okay, but eventually they're gonna counter that, and it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah, go ahead,
that's all.
drop.
That's all I got.
Okay. Okay. Um, couple quick things I wanted to say, just jumping off that Diplex point. The reason I kind of made that Bjergsen comparison earlier was because he played similarly, in my opinion, to how young Bjergsen looked when he first entered the LCS. I mean, just absolutely dominating his lane opponents, not really having any issues. I mean, 5 kills, 2 deaths, 9 assists, and 2 wins. Is his KDA? His KDA is 7.25, 782 damage per minute. I mean, he played Akali Silas, and you can say like, well, those are just broken champions, but clearly he's shown a mastery on it, and he knows what he likes to play. I will be more concerned for him when he's forced onto a ranged mid laner, a mage. We saw a lot of Azir mid. We saw Victor. Um, that was about. I mean, Talia maybe if you want. Syndra is always gonna be kind of good. Cass and Rise always gonna be kind of good, kind of in the meta. So yeah, it'll be interesting to track his progress. Another fun note I had was Berserker was the only AD carry to play Ashe at her AD carry designated role this weekend. Ashe was played in other games, but as a support. Everybody else
Yeah,
played
I
her
think
as a
game
support.
two we had Ash in support.
Yeah,
Um,
we had
yeah,
Poom played
you know,
it, Chime played it, Vulcan played it. A lot of people played Ashe support and Heimer support. So
yeah. I mean, I think we hit this first game. Really for what it's worth.
yeah, I mean
Um,
it's a Cassante draft gap. I
at
mean,
the end of the day, we could talk about it all we want. It's Cassante draft cap.
yeah, and I do
Um,
want to say as a Viego main that this wasn't the match to pick Viego. I love him as much as Closer does. I love him as much as anybody does. You see that team comp, you see that Wukong get locked in. I mean, run away.
yeah,
It's GG. So
yeah.
let's go ahead and move on to Evil Geniuses versus Golden Guardians was our second match of the day, which more people probably were able to watch at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, love the riot scheduling
Love these
change.
new time frames.
And FBI in this first game looked very comfortable. He came over from 100 Thieves. They blew that team up. FBI used to be a part of that previous core with Closer and all those guys. Who he I think was on that team. He looked like he slotted right in on Evil Geniuses, and that's a good sign because losing Danny, we'll see what the consequences of that are. I mean, he had to take a break for his sake, which I respect and understand. Um, but EG is coming back with three of the same core, inspired their jungler MVP of last year, Jojo Pion, the 18-year-old mid lane superstar, North America's greatest talent at the moment, and then Vulcan, who's just been a solid support ever since he's been in the league. They replaced Impact and Danny with Someday and FBI. Uh, me personally, my preference when if I had to pick a team or a roster, I would have preferred Impact over Someday. I just like the way Impact plays a little bit more. I think Impact gives a little bit more to the team. Um, but Someday's a great player in his own right, and deserves to be on a top team. But yeah, I mean, I just said FBI looked great on Jin. The thing is, Jojo Pion did not look good this weekend,
No.
and I'm not sure really what happened or what was going on behind the scenes there. But I mean, Evil Geniuses needed a 38-minute Baron turnaround fight to really complete this game, and it was looking a little dicey. That's all I want to say about the quick overview. What do you have?
Yeah, I mean this is one of those games, and I have written here, talking about that Baron fight at the 38th minute. That's where EG shows they're better. But thinking about it and coming back and rewatching the VOD, I'm not entirely sure that's true.
Okay.
Um, you take, and I think you're right. On paper, obviously, you look at these rosters. I don't know what the hell Golden Guardians is. I mean, I don't know what Golden Guardians could afford. Let's just say that.
hmm
Um, but you look at EG. You bring in two former LCS champions in Someday and FBI over from 100 Thieves. Um, and then and like you're saying, you slot them in, and they both look comfortable. Now, by the way, Someday did not play very well
No,
in this first game.
no.
Um, but I also think that that's one of those things that you have, again, you got to take at face value on day one, because these guys are, they've scrimmed, they've played together for the last few months, but they are getting comfortable with each
Mhm.
other.
Yeah.
And I think this is true in most esports, that we look at this and it's a lot of overreactions day one, which is okay. It's good for the discourse, it's good for the dialogue.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, you hit it on the head. FBI looked fantastic. I have that written down here. And by the way, FBI, it was a quiet game too, which I think was interesting from him.
Yeah.
At 33 minutes, he's 2-0-3, but he's the most problematic person on the Rift. Um, and I think if EG wants to go out and win a split, because I think, obviously before the games talked, we said you got to look at EG, you got to look at FlyQuest, and you got to look at C9. I think those are the three that we were able to kind of step back and say these three are the best equipped to go out and win the split.
Yeah.
FBI looked great in game one. Vulcan looked great on Ashe in support on game one.
Mhm.
Great compliment to each other in the bot lane, by the way. Is two bot lane dominators that we are.
Yeah.
That's good to see. I think that's a lot of fun to see.
It
It's an
is.
interesting comp
It is.
that you really just don't see a lot.
Yeah.
Now, Jojo Pune on a Zir mid. I don't know, man. I don't know. And I obviously I just said, we got the overreactions going here. I don't want to overreact, but he just did not he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look confident. And obviously it's tough to do that when your first game is against Golden Guardians and you come out, let's not kid ourselves. They come out expecting to sweep this game.
Mhm.
Um, frankly, EG probably shouldn't have won this game.
Yeah.
And
I
I think
mean,
that's something that we have to recognize here, and that's okay because it's day one, week one. But it does take a Baron fight at 38 minutes uh, for EG to wrap this game up.
yeah.
Um, Now I will say I did see some good things. We both saw some good things out of EG, and that kind of continued into day two. Um, but yeah, man, I think that EG is somebody that we're going to be able to comfortably look upon over the course of the split and say, yeah, they're going to be top three, top four pretty safely come the end of the split.
Yes.
Um, I am interested to see how comfortable Someday and FBI are. While obviously FBI looked good and Someday did not look so good.
Mhm.
I'm interested to see how that works out because you're
Yeah.
you're working against yourself, not working against yourself, but you're working with a new team that has been working together for a while now.
Yep.
I'm interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah. I agree. So, before we give Golden Guardians some credit and props because they were playing a good game before the Baron throw. They were pretty much winning this thing. Um, FBI 7-0-7. He didn't die once, which is
Hmm.
really impressive on a character like Jin. I mean, if I could play Jin like that every game, I'd be challenger by now.
Yep.
Jojo Pion ended 1-7-6, and you gotta wonder if Azir's just not really his kind of champion. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I've seen good Azir games out of Jojo before. I think maybe it was just an off weekend. Maybe he just didn't get a lot of work in over the off season. The other thing I want to touch on, Inspired looked great on Sejuani. Sejuani looks like a very strong jungle pick right now.
Hell,
As long,
everybody looked good on Sejuani.
yeah, along with Wukong. I mean,
Yeah.
those tanky junglers are, in high demand right now. And so what I want to get into real fast, and then we can move on or do whatever. Someday on Jax is up against Olaf, and I remember distinctly EG taking a jungle fight in the bot jungle. I think Dragon was coming up or had spawned, and I think I see Ash Arrow. I think I see Sejuani ult. I think I see Jax jump with a stun, and all on Olaf with ult up with R up. And obviously he just runs away from it, and I just have to wonder what the call is there, because you're never getting that kill. And what I'm trying to get at here is how much shot calling and leadership did Impact bring to Evil Geniuses that they are going to miss out on this split? And we can see it already with FlyQuest, with how well they're playing as a team, and just there might be more value that Impact brings to a team than just his play. And I think he has developed that on all kinds of teams throughout his career. And I don't know if Someday has that. I mean, Someday is in the 100 Thieves Hall of Fame. He's done amazing things for orgs. But if I did my little punditry right now, I would probably say that Someday is kind of a player that you want to play around and feed resources to because he can carry, but I wouldn't necessarily have him try to make calls in the mid game. He also, I'm pretty sure this was him taking the tower dive fight.
Yeah,
Yeah. So he misses his E trying to 1v1 Licorice at the mid tier 2 tower. And he commit. I'll give him credit. He committed to it. He saw blood in his eyes. He smelled blood in the water. He wanted it. He wanted it bad. And unfortunately for him, the E misses and he dies and loses the 1v1. So, kind of a little bit of trolling, maybe a little bit of fun since it's the first week back. But real quick, giving some credit to Golden Guardians. River looked great on Wukong.
yeah.
Maybe it's just hard to look bad on Wukong. Who knows? I think Golden Guardians can they can bounce back from O2. Huhi, I think, is a very good support. Stixay, a solid 80 carry. I don't know enough about Young. River looked fine, and Licorice he's going to be, kind of that middle of the pack top laner. I think Golden Guardians, at their best, maybe a middle of the pack, fifth, sixth place team. But I think they'll bounce back after an 0-2. They had a tough start of their
They did have a
season.
tough start. They did have a tough start. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm ready to jump into FlyQuest and Team Liquid because I I got some dialogue on Team Liquid.
Me too. So FlyQuest, what I want to say about FlyQuest is this is how you import. This is how you import LCK players. Prince is phenomenal. And Team Liquid, which they've always kind of done, they decided to opt for, former world champions, guys who are coming off of Worlds Run, et cetera, et cetera. Mainly Piosik is who I'm referring to. They also have an all Korean team, so that's unique for the LCS, or all Korean speaking team, I should say. But yeah, this is a tough start for Team Liquid, and and you have to wonder how this is even possible because Core JJ has been one of the founding leaders of this Team Liquid team for the past I don't know how many splits. I mean, he's the rock, he's the shot caller, he's the team leader. Plays go through him. He knows what he's doing, and yet you just have a very disjointed team here. And I mean, the Vi Jungle, O2 in day one, probably not the pick going forward. Lucian Nami a strong lane, but I mean, maybe it's just a Prince gap. But yeah, I mean, they look disjointed. Spica's Maokai looked tremendous. I was very impressed with Spica's jungling.
Mhm.
And I mean, FlyQuest just took control of this game early and often, and they never really let Team Liquid get a chance to recover at any point.
No, I think what's fascinating me about this game is that we're talking about Team Liquid, and there's not a lot to say. Um, FlyQuest and by the way, this was not ever a game.
Yeah.
Uh, you saw. I mean, obviously, you got the start of the game. With when we're in lane, but from the sixth, seventh minute, this was over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what it kind of is funny to me about this game is I actually wrote down what the hell is Team Liquid's plan,
Right.
and that's just a general question because you look at this roster, it's not the worst roster we've ever seen,
No, no, not at all.
but then you can jump right across the rift over to FlyQuest roster, and I'm not sure who beats them because it's not Team Liquid,
Yeah.
and I think Team Liquid, in this first match against FlyQuest looked really similar to 100 Thieves against Cloud9.
Mm-hmm.
What really stood out to me, and I went back and rewatched this earlier today. Team Liquid looked so lost in team fights.
Yes.
And maybe that's draft gap. But I think it really comes down to it being a team gap because Prince and Winsome didn't really do anything most of the match. Um, this was a game that was oddly quiet when it came down to kills. I think we ended with I don't even know how many kills we ended with, but
I
it was
have
I
it.
mean it was a fairly quiet game.
I have it pulled up. FlyQuest had 16, Liquid had 8. So, I mean, a little bit on the higher end, but FlyQuest was chasing fountain kills at the end. I think they got a quadra. It was basically 12-8. They got a quadra
I believe that was
or
Zeri's quadra.
12-4. It was Prince's
Yeah,
quadra. He almost got a penta in the first game of his LCS career, which is funny to me. They were diving fountain, but Liquid did not give it over. So,
no,
yeah, I mean, it's a little bit inflated in kills. But yeah, I mean, it was really just dominant lane play from all of the laners. Vikla did not have a great game, 0-4-7, but
no.
he did what needed to be done in team fights, and Spica really controlled the pace of the map, and Prince on the Seri, this looks like a good pick for him, and he looks like he's probably gonna win. He could win MVP. I would probably give him an MVP vote, but he looks like he's the best AD carry in NA right now, by far. Um, his Ezreal on day two we'll get to later, but yeah, he just looks like he's dominating, and this is just how you build a roster. Impact was on his signature Gangplank pick. Um, and Summit didn't look like he had any answer on a Jax. So I'd question the synergy with their team comp. You've got Lucian Nami to win hard bot lane, but against Lulu, it's just so hard. I mean, she's buffing the Zeri. The Zeri already has so much mobility. I mean, when are you going to land a bubble? When are they going to let you get close to poke them? And then, Syndra is fine, I guess, into Azir in a vacuum. But what is your Vi bringing to the table in this case? Um, if she ults the Zeri can tumble out. The Zeri can get hugified. The Zeri can get Gangplank ulted on top of her to slow the Vi even more. The Zeri can poke. I mean, it's just hard. I think P06 playing behind all game, and maybe Maokai is disgustingly broken. Maybe FlyQuest is just that good of a team right now, and they look comfortable. They look ready to dominate, and they look good. And Team Liquid, this is a real come to Jesus moment for that organization because you cannot spend what you spent in the past couple years, and maybe even this year, and continue to not have success. Otherwise, I mean, heads could roll. Last year, I believe they had the highest paid roster and
Yeah,
didn't even make worlds.
no.
So so yeah, Team Liquid has a lot of soul searching to do, and they just came up flat in their first day. So that's all I really have on. This wasn't close. It was FlyQuest all the way, and you know, pretty boring, pretty standard domination, pretty boring overall game.
Yeah, I mean it's a
Yeah,
30-minute GG go next.
yeah.
And I think that I mean you hit it on the head. That this is a come to Jesus moment for Team Liquid. And if they are unable, because I think you got to form up around Core JJ. Um, Summit has got to reset and kind of look in the mirror. You got to figure out your draft.
Mhm.
Um, but this team has to be able to form around Core JJ. And if they can't do that, this isn't a roster that's going to do anything
Yeah,
come late split.
yeah.
But yeah, man, this is a blowout from start to finish. Um, and we
And
can get over to go ahead.
yeah, one last thing before we move on to CLG Dignitas. And for those who don't know, Summit previously played for Cloud9 in the NALCS, and
Yep.
he won the MVP for Summer Split, I believe. He was that dominant, and you have Impact throwing him around like a chew toy. So, FlyQuest came to play, man. They're here. They're the real deal. So, That's all we have for that game. We'll move on to CLG and Dignitas now.
The great Counter Logic Gaming.
And boy, oh boy, CLG is back. We are in the golden era once again. If you have faith, now is the time to show it. Quick note, Dignitas is playing without Ignar, who is their starting support. They had Biofrost subbed in. I guess visa issues, because there's always visa issues in NA. Dignitas spent some money on this roster. This is not a bunch of bums out there. This is Armut came over from Mad Lions from EU LCS. Mad Lions has been a very consistently good top tier team over there. They've got Santorin previously of Team Liquid, who's seen his fair share of success. He's won LCS before with TSM. He's won it with Liquid. I mean, he's just a very solid jungler. And then you've got Jensen, who base, basically came here to replace Bjergsen, and then Bjergsen just sunned him for his whole career. So I mean, this is a team that is supposed to be able to play, supposed to be expected to play. CLG is bringing back their entire roster, no changes, which I think is extremely important for the first week, 2 weeks maybe. Bringing in that synergy from last split, they ended on a high note. They didn't see much success, but they did win a lot of games towards the end of the split. And I like that approach personally when building a team or creating a roster. If I see a team that has some success towards the end of the split, I want to keep them together. And it paid off in dividends here for CLG. What do you have?
Yeah, I mean this was just never a game.
No.
We just said this about FlyQuest and Team Liquid, but again, man, this was just never a game. Um, and you mentioned something I wanted to talk about when it comes to Dignitas is this is a roster. Now you got some older guys, which is true. Um, but this is a team that can play, and I think that you look at a roster like see, and I remember last split we're talking about CLG, like can they make a run? And they just ran out of time. But baby, did Palafox look good on Victor, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Man, he looked good on Victor, and I hell the whole team.
yeah,
Uh, I love the Ash support play into Ezreal,
yes,
which I think is interesting because they're similar champs um, against the Varus and Heimerdinger. You know, I was interested going into this game because CLG did look good in the last split, but it's CLG.
right.
Um, and you look at Jensen, you look at Santorin. Obviously Biofrost is subbed in. Former TSM great Biofrost.
Yes, yeah.
Um,
Those days are
is
long
subbed
gone.
in to play long gone, long gone. Is subbed in to play support. Yeah, they just look bad.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other way to put it. This was never a game.
No.
Um, CLG did not even need Soul. This was not a game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I think there's some overreactions, and obviously we did the same. We did it. We said, Dignifraud, Frauditas, some people might say.
Yeah.
Um, I think Dignitas of any of these teams, this is one where you step back and say, let's wait and see. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because Dignitas was just relevant. And I think that this is a team that now the draft is a little questionable to me. We've got to hang up the Azir mid in North America. That it's not working. Even I don't care if it's Jensen. It's not working. But yeah, man, across the board, this was a draft gap. Um, uh, this was never a game. Now what I'm interested to see throughout the course of the split. How does Dokla? Is it Dokla?
Yes, Dokla.
How does Dokla keep it up? Because while he was serviceable
Yeah.
here against Dignitas,
Yeah.
let's see. Even when we get into day two, we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But let's see top for CLG over
I
the course
agree.
of the split
I
and see
agree.
if that becomes a liability.
Yes.
Because if you lose your top lane, or if your top lane is not if you're not coherent with your top lane, dude, they're not gonna do anything because there are too many other top laners. You hell take Fudge out of the picture. There are too many top laners in this league that
Yep.
can be problematic.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that is their easily most replaceable position on this roster. He got a double kill to start the lane and never got a kill again after that. He did have
that was
five
it.
assists, but and he was gonna die ideally. It was a gank from Dignitas, but Contracts came in and turned it around. And I think Contracts is probably the unspoken hero of this team. 10 assists on the Sejuani one death. He looked good. He looked calm, confident, collected. And CLG also had a bot dive to start this game off on Spawn and Biofrost, who were under tower and looked lost. I do wonder if CLG had some set plays, maybe perhaps they've run this comp in scrims before and know when lanes are pushed to a certain extent if they can get a gank like that off. But yeah, I think Contracts is gonna bear the weight a little bit. Him and Palafox. I think Luger and Poom are serviceable, but I think this team runs through Contracts and Palafox, and we'll see what Dokla can do later on. I don't necessarily like the gangplank for him. I'd like to see him on Jax. I think he'd be a bit of a better Jax player, or just go back to some tanky weak side top laners. I think that would be the most serviceable route for that team for those guys.
Yeah, I think you, I think you hit it on the head.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Any other thoughts, or let's just go
Let's talk
next?
about Team Solo Mid, man.
Yeah, all right. I'm excited for this one. I am a former TSM super fan. After the debauchery that's gone on in that organization, I can't say that I support them full fledged, fully hearted any longer. But you know what I will say is I think this roster is exciting. I think this is a promising roster, and I you look at it on paper and and you're probably going, "What are you talking about?" I mean, what are we even looking at here? You've got Neo, you've got Solo, you've got Chime. I mean, perma stuck academy guys, but I think these guys are really playing from the underdog mentality that nobody believes in us, and I think they could just be a well coached, decent middle of the pack team, and they had a bit of a run last year, just like CLG. Similarly, they're bringing back three of their five players. Solo, Maple, and Chime are all returning. They dropped Tactical for Neo, and they lost Spica to FlyQuest and picked up Boogie, who is an LJ, who's floating around the LGL, I want to say. Yeah, so uh, Immortals is definitely, and to me, it's not even close. Probably the dead last team in this league. They are bad, and
Ah,
and I need to know how much longer of a leash we're giving Revenge for these rosters and these teams. I think the only bright spots they have, I do think Revenge is fine. It's not his fault. Uh, Blaze Olive had an uncharacteristically bad game.
yeah, it's a stinker.
I don't know how in the world your coaching staff allows Draven Pike with a Fiora top and you give away Lucian Nami and Cassante. I mean, this was ugly. Revenge did solo early on in the game, and he was playing from weak side all game long. But I mean, this is full tank Cassante. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's gonna get his. He got 8 assists. He did enough to help the team win. Boogie looked very comfortable on Elise. Maple, we know, is a good Talia. He likes Talia. And TSM really focused around the bot, which I love to see. I love to see Draven and Pike get punished. And this was a perfect, I mean, master. I mean, I'm dead honest when I tell you this. You can watch the VOD. They didn't fucking touch Solo's lane. They said, hey, good luck, buddy. We'll see you in fucking 28 minutes. All right. See you around. And Boogie sat his ass bot lane and they camped the ever loving shit out of this Draven Pike, and it worked. I mean, Immortals has no answer. It had no answer all game. And this is not how you play Sejuani. You look at Kenvi and then you look at contracts. It's a world of difference, buddy. So that's my brief breakdown. What have you got here, Tucker? What have you got?
Yeah, I think that you look at Immortals, and it's hard to. How do you really say anything seriously about Immortals? Um, I their in-game stats. When the Nexus fell, you got Revenge 1-0, Kinvi 0-3, Ablaze Olive 0-5, Tactical 0-3, Fleshy 1-1. Your only kills in this game came from your top laner and your support. Now I recognize that it's Pyke,
Yeah,
but when you have 0-11 from your jungle, mid, and bot laner, I mean you're not going to win the game.
yeah,
Um, and by the way, that's inexcusable. I'm gonna be very blunt here. Immortals should be embarrassed. Um, because while as a former TSM superfan, you're gonna say that you're excited about this roster and you're looking forward to seeing what they can do. On paper, it's not a great roster.
no,
And to get their asses beat the way that Immortals did, um, you're just turning the page in the same book with Immortals. And frankly, it's hard to say anything about them because there's nothing really to talk about. They're not good.
yeah,
Um, Now, when it comes to TSM, uh, they did look good. I'm not going to say they look great because of who they were up against. And the draft, something about that draft just seems off to me. Um, and I think that to allow TSM to do that, you got Boogie 4-0. You got Maple 3-0 with 6 assists, by the way.
yeah.
This team played a team match of League of Legends to
And
win this game.
and that's why I'm excited mainly. I think that Chowie is gonna really coach these guys to really play around each other and play around their strengths. And I think they have a lot of players who are willing to play for the team and not play as individuals. Maple, you've seen do it his whole career. Solo always has given up, his lane to help the team, better the team. I mean the real weakness is going to be, can Neo carry like this? Is he?
Yeah,
A lot of people were calling Neo going from Neo to tactical a side grade. Let me tell you something. I've always kind of had some belief in Neo, and you can maybe say I'm lying or whatever. I'm being genuine when I say that. I think he's shown flashes of being a pretty good AD carry, and side lane or side grade my ass. I mean, this is like the fourth split now. Tactical has just looked like he's not an LCS player, and you're gonna put him on Draven game one, week one. I get that this is like a revenge game for him or whatever. Like, oh, the TSM kicked me or whatever.
well, how'd that turn out?
Well, I mean, and a Blaze Olive certainly didn't have any animosity towards TSM because he didn't
No,
show it in his gameplay. So I mean, like, yeah, this is Immortals is not going to be a team we talk about very much, except for the fact that they're getting their ass kicked
they're bad.
every week. I mean, that's what the breakdown's going to be. They stink. They're probably going to be last. You feel maybe for revenge or a Blaze Olive a little bit, but I think this is the last time we see Tactical in LCS. I don't think he will be on a team in summer. I think I
Yeah,
think
hard to imagine he gets another chance.
I
And I
think
think that's disappointing because he's kind of a staple, like you mentioned, and that's a disappointing state of affairs. One thing I just wanted to add, I mentioned with the last game with CLG and Dignitas, I said that we'll wait and see on Dignitas, and I think that's true. Um, but I think TSM is a good contrast of that same point. We'll wait and see.
mhm.
Um, because I think you're right. If you give the ADC Lucian, you don't ban Lucian. What do you expect?
Yeah.
You have 4-1-7 from Neo here in game one. And obviously we know this was an ass beating, but we'll wait and see on TSM. I'm not going to tell TSM fans to not get excited, but I think I'm going to tell them to kind of be like you. Is just be interested.
Mhm.
Be
Mhm.
interested and see what they can prop up.
Yeah.
Because you take a team that just had 8 assists, 5 assists, 6 assists, 7 assists, 11 assists from your support and
Mhm.
Nami with Chime. that's fun. That's fun League of Legends. You have everybody working together
Yep.
in these team fights. You can tell that they're clustered together. It's this was not just a ARAM either.
No,
This was
they were moving around the
this was
map.
a very diverse game, moving around the map. You're trying to attack the Nexus from all sides. I loved it, man. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm going back and watching this today because we haven't. Who has really cared about TSM the last couple of years? Because I know you haven't. Obviously, I haven't.
Hmm.
I agree with you. I thought it was a lot of fun, man. But it is one of those things that we have to wait and see.
Yep,
Um,
and they will regret. I'm sure they will regress to the norm at some point. There will be. I mean, they're just a hot team coming out, but they're a team that's returned a lot of their players. So I mean,
yeah,
you have to keep that in mind. And you served them up, a fresh kill day one with Immortals. I mean,
yeah.
look at the pick ban, and you see that Immortals don't ban Cassante, don't ban Jax, and then TSM bans Jax, so what on earth would TSM be picking here if they ban Jax? I don't know. It's real head scratcher there. So anyway, yeah. I mean, that's all we've got really for this game. TSM looks promising. Immortals stock is going
It's bad.
down. Yeah.
Uh, Before we jump into day two,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I want to talk about the production a little bit.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, First of all, this new studio that Riot Games is putting out, and by the way, hey, this is no hashtag ad. I am very critical of Riot Games.
He is.
Um, this new studio is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I noted during the broadcast, I'm not huge on the entire wall being a screen. Um, but I think the new studio is really nice. The new stage was super nice. I think that the way they integrated your commentators with your analysts, and then just the entire production looked very crisp. That being said, that's what we should expect out of this organization at this point. I'm not going to give them props because they made some improvements to their stage and to their studio, but I will just say everything ran smoothly for both days.
Mm-hmm.
The other note I want to make, Bwipo, have we
Future
found lightning in a bottle?
future caster.
Future caster, man. That I was because in a couple years into this game, you're still learning the nuance of it. I
Yeah.
think everybody's really still learning the nuance of League of Legends. I think it's similar to chess in that regard. Um, but Bwipo, that was impossible not to be engrossed. Um, for both, well, obviously he was live commentating the games with Captain Sparkles and Azael.
Captain
Um,
Flowers.
Captain Sparkles. Um,
Mike, what are we doing?
well, has Minecraft Hunger Games. Um, no, with Captain Flowers and Azael. Dude, I loved it.
I
Um,
think they did too. I mean, I think Isaiah
I
was
think everybody,
taken
no, I don't
aback a
think
little
anybody
bit.
expected that.
No, I certainly
I
didn't.
think the production team was kind of caught off guard. Um, and also, post match interviews, Blippo was fun. And then behind the scenes, in the studio, with the team, yeah, man, he was just really good. I don't know how often we're gonna get that because hell, this dude may be on a team in a couple weeks. We
Yeah,
don't know.
it's a little
Um,
criminal. He's not on a
yeah, I
roster
agree with
right
you.
now
I
with
agree with you.
with what we're seeing from the top
Well,
laners.
I mean, it's what we saw last split with Jensen. No,
Yes. No, it is. You're exactly
it's
right.
one of those things
No,
that you're
you're
like, what?
exactly right.
Really? You couldn't find a spot for this guy?
Yeah.
But yeah, man,
We don't know
those
the
are the only two notes I
contracts.
had. Yeah, well, you got contracts.
It could be a buyout situation.
Yeah, yeah, man. That's all I had for it, and I wanted to just touch on that before we got into day two because that was, there's been a lot of talk um, around Riot Games. When it comes to budget, do they care about LCS and League of Legends as a whole?
Mhm.
Are they just focusing strictly on Valorant?
Mhm.
I think time will tell when it comes to that. But let's not get it twisted that League of Legends is still their baby.
Correct. And
And I think that there's still passion around it.
mhm.
The 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 analysts do not look beaten. There's still fun when it comes to the live commentary. Um, the studio audience felt more like a sitcom than it did in esports. Marina.
It's
But
it's
that's
always
what you
gonna be a
get
little
when your games
corny.
start at like 9 a.m. or whatever the
It's
hell's
all
going on in California.
Yeah, 2 o'clock. It's always gonna be a little corny like that, but a lot of, I mean, yeah, I mean they're having fun. Is it not a smaller live crowd than it used to be? I feel like I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen because they only showed a couple shots. Now it looked full in all the shots
It
we
was
saw, and that may be
yeah
by
of day
design.
one. Now
It's
I
day
don't know.
one.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
day
they
one,
referring to that, but
and I think we'll see. That's all I will say. But
hmm
I just I wanted to kind of give a little bit of love to the LCS team because they've been kind of getting shit on
hmm I
lately, and I
agree.
think some of that is justified, but I think more of that comes back to right HQ.
Yes.
Um, yeah, man, they did well. They did well. I think it's a lot of it's going to be par for the course this year, but if they can continue to have a little bit of fun with bringing in Blippo and guys like that are able to kind of just really just jump in, like
Yeah.
it didn't, like it wasn't jarring at all.
No.
I enjoyed that a lot, man. But that was yeah, that's all I have for the production. Do you have anything on it?
Yeah, no, I just want to tally on to your point about sort of the well, two things I suppose. First thing is that the absence of Dash, I'm sure, was definitely felt by a lot of the audience watching.
Oh, we know it
Uh,
was.
well, it's just a little baffling and a little confusing because it doesn't really feel like they actually changed their type of production when it comes to post game and pre game at all, which makes me wonder what they mean when they say that they don't feel they need a host any longer. I do feel like they still needed or had a guy that was kind of keeping the conversation flowing, and they used Raz for that this time, who I think is great, but um, yeah, I don't know. What maybe more time will tell when it comes to that. Maybe we'll see him do content for teams, and maybe he'll be a guest appearance every now and again, kind of like
Yeah,
Shocks is for EULCS. But um, Emily was great. She did a good job. I thought QT Cinderella did a good job as well. I thought the content with her was pretty fun and carefree and loose and stuff.
yeah.
And everybody, I want to make it clear whether the higher ups at Riot, figured out or not when it comes to League or Valorant. Everybody who works on that broadcast has their heart and soul and careers tied to LCS, and they love it and they put a lot of work into it and they're passionate about it. And that's just I think what the audience wants to see. They just want to make sure that there is some life. That the spark is still there because at the end of the day, I mean, you wanna watch this because it's fun and it's entertaining, and the second that it doesn't feel that way, I think is really when there's a problem. But the doom and gloom crowd is always gonna be hanging around. It's a little reminiscent of World of Warcraft. Like, WoW is dead. WoW was dead. Like we're kind of approaching that territory. This game's a decade old. I mean, these games we're in rarefied air for games and especially esports to this caliber. So I hope that LCS continues to thrive and prosper because you know even if these teams never figure it out internationally, this is still NA. This is still our region, and
Hmm.
you still want to enjoy the entertainment and have some pride in that. So that's all I have. It's a little long-winded, but yeah, I
No, I
mean, I
agree with
agree
you,
with you.
100%.
I agree with you. So on to day two,
Oh boy.
and this is where it starts to fall apart for Evil Geniuses.
Yeah,
Uh, CLG with the come from behind win, down 10,000 gold at one point in the match, and they just were allowed to scale, and they just looked better and more cohesive. Jojo Pune, another bad game, this time on a more signature pick of his with Rise, and someday making Cassante look balanced, which is pretty impressive. Um, FBI, it wasn't his fault. 4-1-5. That's for sure. He's playing. Him and Inspired are playing. These guys are in their usual form, and they're performing. I think you get late enough in this game. Cassiopeia has Rada Ages. Ryla, I mean, look how tank. I mean, look at the items she has. So tanky late in the game. Banshee's Veil, Void Staff, Rylai's Rod, and I forget what that item's called. Seraph's Embrace. There it is. Seraph's Embrace with the mana shield. And then you have Sejuani on the front line. You have Jax who goes full damage, but he still has his ultimate with the damage reduction, and he's got his counter stance with his E. And then you've got Sivir and Karma to speed this team up. And what is Varus supposed to do? He can't hit anybody. And if he does hit somebody, he's hitting Sejuani, and he's not doing any damage. Uh, or he's just getting jumped on by a full Sivir R Karma sped Jax. And you look at Evil Genius's comp. The Elise is outmanaged here. She can't. She did her job early, but what is she to do late? Hitting a cocoon is hard. There's so much speed. You're not doing anything in spider form. You're pretty. I mean, this is a full AP build for her. You're pretty squishy at this point, and I mean, someday just didn't do enough as a frontliner. But this is where this is where I think teams like CLG and TSM and some of these middle of the pack teams kind of are gonna steal some games. Gonna get away from kind of get. I can't speak. Sorry, steal some games. That's what I'm trying to say. They draft a late game comp. They play for late game, and surprise, surprise, you don't end the game at 28, 30 minutes, and next thing you know, you're getting aced at Dragon for Dragon Soul. You're getting aced at Baron Pit for Baron, and the win that you had just slips away. And this is what happened in the EG game. That they sat back. CLG was allowed to scale. They couldn't answer the Jax side lane. They couldn't answer the Cassiopeia side lane. They could never get a kill on Luger, and they were just. I think Sivir. Well, you saw the damage chart. Sivir had like 7K in a team fight at the end of the game, 6,000 damage in a team fight
Yeah.
at the end of the game. It was probably a soul crushing loss for Evil Geniuses, and they don't look like they're informed. They're gonna need to regroup for week 2 and get it together. But CLG, gutsy come from behind win with that 10K gold deficit.
Yeah, I think that the thing about CLG, and this is something that we're going to have to recognize over the course of the season, is that this is a roster, like you said, that brought everyone back. And I think that's how you win these games. There's an easy chance where if you slot out a couple guys, right? Maybe you lose Poon. Hell, maybe you lose Palafox. You never know. Maybe some moves are made, right? You probably don't win that game because where's that communication?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're at 38, 40 minutes where anything really ends the game.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to step back, form up, not just run it down mid, that takes a lot of team chemistry. And I think you have 5 guys with CLG right now that are able to do that. Jump over to EG like we just talked about. You have to slot in FBI, and someday, man, maybe that late game coherence is just not there yet.
Yep.
And we definitely saw that because Cassante, who is, we're over it. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Someday looked very mortal on Cassante.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the damage for this last
Pedestrian.
team fight, and you mentioned it: 7,000 damage, 6,600 from Luger
On the Sivir.
on Sivir. But then you have 5,000 from Jax. Cassante 1,800.
Yeah.
They're lucky Varus was there with 4,000 damage. Otherwise, nobody's breaking 2,500.
Yeah.
And that's the game.
Yeah, and someday is building a normal full tank build, the normal Cassante build, and you compare his Cassante to Fudge's. Fudge built the same thing and got a quadra kill.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at it. The only difference is Fudge went Frozen Heart instead of Sunfire Gargoyle, but he wasn't even able to hit a 4th item because that game was over in a second. The blink of an eye. We'll get to that in just a second. Just gonna wrap up our thoughts here with CLG Evil Geniuses. I think we've said it all pretty much. CLG is gonna get these come from behind wins. The last thing I wanted to say is you mentioned when they bring everybody back like this. You're right. You're right about the coordination and the communication. And that is something I think that is overlooked because that's not something that the team needs to work on at all in the off season. You bring five guys back, everybody knows their role, everybody knows their job, everybody knows who's, calling what and when and where. And I think, like I said earlier, Evil Geniuses misses inspired, or I'm sorry, not inspired, impact. They miss impacts calls at some point in the game, whatever he was in
Yeah.
charge of. And I think Danny also had a voice in this team, and I think they're missing that too. I think FBI is going to be a great stand-in, but we don't know what I don't personally know what his shot calls are like or what he's calling for. So we'll see. I think their team comp just got outscaled, and that's kind of the story. They blew it. I mean, they choked it, so they'll have to bounce back. We'll see. But
Yeah,
let
I mean, this is you're right. This is a choke from EG, but fair play to CLG,
yes,
who really played a fantastic game. Um, but that's that 5-man confidence that you're going to have with a
yep,
returning roster. But
yep,
yeah, man, I want to keep my eye on CLG. I think this week's going to be really interesting to see kind of if they're able to come back and really step up and say, man, we're going to go 4-0.
yep.
Because if they end up 4-0, you're gonna have to start looking around saying, hold on, does this team slot into 4-3 maybe? We'll see.
You
We'll find out.
you know what's funny and is a little weird scheduling. Uh, CLG has a rematch with Dignitas on Thursday.
Yeah,
So they just beat them, just pulled took their pants off, spanked
yeah,
them. And
yeah,
then their first real test to see if they'll go 4-0, depending on how TSM does. Oh, well, I'm sorry. TSM has Immortals, so never mind. So so we could be looking at 3-0 TSM versus 3-0 CLG on Friday. And I mean, talk about a hype matchup.
yeah.
That could be one of the most viewed games this split. We'll find out. But let's go ahead and stay on day two of week one and move on to Golden Guardian
Yeah. Matter of fact,
versus
I can
Cloud
handle
Nine
this one.
versus
Um,
Cloud 9, and I think the stats speak for itself. 25.5 minute win for Cloud 9. Um, the fudge factor is a real deal, and Sven looks great on Lulu, but I mean, there's not much to talk about here. This was a dismantling of Golden Guardians. Go ahead and take the floor.
no, I mean, my notes are very short and concise. Fudge on Casante. This is not okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
this needs to be
Never really a
banned.
game. Team gap, draft gap. GG, well played.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This is a 25-minute win. Um, there's not a lot to say here for Golden Guardians. Uh, I think we give them a little bit of credit for their first game against Evil Geniuses.
Yep.
Because I mean, it did take a Baron flip for EG to win, but EG was winning that game for the most part. Um, Here, yeah, this is a 25-minute ass beating. There's not a lot here to break down for Golden Guardians. Everybody really looked pretty good for C9. I'm interested with the Wukong pick. And I only mean how are we gonna see that evolve over the course of this season
Mm-hmm.
with what is probably gonna be a Cassante top meta.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Swap it out with Jags or Gangplank. But yeah, man, I that's the only thing that I kind of look at, and I'm okay. We'll see how this works out with how mobile Wukong is,
Yeah.
and if Casante's even need the help up there, because you're not going to need it with Fudge. This guy have a hard time thinking that Fudge is not the best top laner in the LCS.
Mm-hmm.
But man, yeah, this is one of those games of League that obviously you're going to FF15, but you're also able to step back and say, okay, if somebody's gonna give FlyQuest a run for their money, because FlyQuest just looked the best. They look the best, like the best team the entire. I can't say weekend anymore because we're playing games on Thursdays now.
Yeah, yeah. The
The
week.
entire week they looked
Yeah,
like the best team,
yeah.
and it wasn't particularly close.
No.
But I did see a lot of Cloud 9 that I'm able to comfortably say, you know what? They're not a close second, and they're not a distant second. They're a pretty safe second.
Yeah,
Because you saw a shaky start against 100 Thieves for Cloud 9.
yeah.
But this was just never a game, and I really am interested to see. if we can develop a rivalry here between Cloud9 and FlyQuest over the course of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because man, Cloud9 looked good in this game against Golden Guardians.
Well, there's a funny history between Cloud9 and FlyQuest. Several of Cloud9's former players, some of the old guard Cloud9 guys, were actually FlyQuest's initial roster in LCS. C9 High, C9 Balls, and was that it? I thought there was one more, but I don't remember. That's gonna bug me. But yeah, so FlyQuest has always kind of been like, I don't want to say a farm team, but like it felt like Cloud9 threw him a lob, kind of rented out some of their guy. Like, here, you guys want
Yeah,
some of our used,
spares.
yeah, our spares, sloppy seconds or whatever. So yeah, no, it's interesting to see a team like FlyQuest. They've flirted with success before. They've gotten to that finals match, but they've just haven't had that kind of success before. And this could be the new budding rivalry, this spring split. So it'll be fun to watch and look at. And yeah, there's not much else to say. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to a way more interesting game after that beatdown. Team Liquid versus TSM. Whoo boy, this one went the distance. 40-minute game. Maple dominating on Azir. I was oh, actually, I'm so sorry. One more thing. What are we doing picking Aurelia Golden Guardians? What is this Aurelia mid pick? This is
Bronze
this is
pick.
this is embar. Where you're no magic is Sejuani's gonna be your magic damage? Yumi's gonna be your magic damage? Okay.
Golden Guardians.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Um, TSM with an interesting draft. I thought Ornn and Graves. You don't see a lot of either of those champs. But you know what? I love seeing Ornn because this guy Ornn is unkillable. And you saw him. You saw Revenge play it in the next game, but we don't talk about that. Yeah, Ornn's unkillable. He's a perfect champion for solo who likes to play weak side. Um, I wasn't I don't know about the Graves pick. We'll have to see if that comes back. But I mean, Gnar was useless, didn't do anything, and uh, Yeon had a good game on Lucian, but it's Lucian Nami. You're expected to have a good game on that kind of pick, in that kind of lane. And TSM was resilient. They battled back here because it wasn't going that well for them most of the game, but they found a way through team coordination, cohesion that they have over Liquid, and I think, like we've talked about all show, this is coming from the guys who have been on the roster for a couple months all together.
Mhm.
They've built this up, and Team Liquid is expected to win these games. This roster is expected to win. To beat teams like TSM, to beat teams like Dignitas, to beat teams like Golden Guardians, CLG, those types of middle of the pack teams. And I mean, based off what we've seen so far, what we're looking at is Team Liquid is actually the middle of the pack team, or the bottom of the pack team. Uh, they need to turn it around quick, and they need to figure it out because Summit has had one of the worst weekends a top laner could have, and Piosik looks pedestrian. He looks like a completely average jungler, not a world champion. And I don't know how you would say I don't. Maybe it is Harry.
Harry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been saying Harry.
Okay, but a 5 and 6 stat line on Akali. I mean, if I don't know, you look at TSM's comp and you see a Graves Callista Ashe, you would think that would be easy pickings for an Akali, but yeah, I don't know. Uh, TSM battled it out. They got the much deserved and much needed win. I think. Um, this is TSM's first 2-0 weekend since like spring split 2016 or something like that.
And what does that say? You know.
It's been crazy. They've always started their splits off 1-1 or 0-2 even.
Yeah.
They've had rough opening weeks, so this is quite the turnaround for this team. Go ahead.
Yeah. I. It's hard to talk about this game without talking about Maple first. Um, and no, I'm not sold on the Azir mid. I still think North America hangs it up. Because 9 out of 10 times it just does not work.
And and
But
and we'll see this in the next in the next game that we talk
oh yeah,
about.
we're gonna see it. We're gonna see it. Yeah. Um, obviously, and we'll break it down again then because it's just God, what a mess is that pick. But um, this can be a Team Liquid win if they had any clue what the hell they were doing in team fights, and they just don't. Um, every objective looked like they were disjointed. They were not coordinated. Um, and TSM, by the way, TSM did look a little shaky in this game, and I think you hit on it pretty well with that. This was early on, and even getting into that early mid game. This, if I had to guess while watching, this is probably a Team Liquid win, right? This is one of those games that just looks like okay, TSM may just not be able to hold on. Yeon's playing well. Core JJ's having a really good game on Nami, but uh, the maple factor is a problem. And the boogie factor was a problem too. Orn basically played support, which is okay because it's Orn. Um, but yeah, man, this is just you look at this game and you can look at kills, you can look at the gold because it was pretty close right to the end. I mean, I think on end it's about like a 1.5 gold diff, give or take, um, in favor of TSM. And obviously you have Soul, you have the Baron buff, and at that point the game was over. But I don't know, man. Team Liquid just looks confused. They really just look lost. Especially in team fights. I'm gonna keep harping on that. And if they look the same again this week, I'm gonna harp on it again.
Hmm.
You cannot assemble this team and look like that when you have your five guys standing against their five guys. I don't care who it is. I don't
Yep.
care if it's Cloud9, FlyQuest. I don't care if it's T1.
Hmm.
You can't look like that.
I agree.
And that's something that we're going to have to see throughout the course of the season with TL. Dude, if you're going to do that against what should be a middling team, like you mentioned with TSM, I don't know, man. You're going to get your ass beat against FlyQuest or Cloud9.
Yeah.
Hell, even 100 Thieves, which we're going to talk about here in a minute,
Yeah.
who figured it out against Immortals.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, I just want to shout out to Chime.
Yes.
Inspirational
That's
on
what I
the Ash, man. That
that's
we're seeing the Ash support work. The Nami's just really strong.
hmm
So I don't think there's really a lot there. And as a support main, noted Nautilus one trick. Um, Man, the Ash support's fun to watch.
it is.
Yeah, I well played to TSM. I was a doubter. I'm still skeptical.
Hmm.
But if they can come out of this week 3-1, um, we'll see. We'll see. Because I think I tend to agree with you on this point. This is a fun roster.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what Team Liquid has a lot to offer throughout the course of the season. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, this was a sloppy game from Liquid. I don't
Hmm.
care that it went 40 minutes. I was not impressed in the slightest.
No. Just I'll give two closing thoughts here, and then we'll move on to another beatdown of a game. Like you said, Chime, unspoken hero, MVP of this game. They were struggling in lane phase, like I mentioned earlier, but it's Lucian Nami. You're not expected to win that when you draft
No,
Callista Ashe. And Chime's Ashe arrows, his ultimates, were incredibly on point. I mean, he was catching people out left and right with this ultimate. And I think a lot of it what has to do with you look at the vision score and Chime has a 122 vision score, Core JJ had a 106, and Boogie with a 123 vision score because of the Umbral Glaive on Graves. They were clearing vision consistently, always making fog of war for Liquid to have to check into. And I mean, you face check with the wrong guy. You face check with a Gnar who's not enraged and he gets blown up in 2 seconds. I mean, this is the problem with a champion like Gnar. You pick Gnar to counter Ornn, right? Because of the range and because he can have some durability in fights. But Gnar is not a permanent tank. He's got windows of engagement that you have to be precise on. And this is where Liquid isn't there yet as a team. They don't have the coordination or the communication to make a champ like Gnar work. Gnar requires a lot of team play and call outs before you engage in a fight, and Liquid is showing that they're just not there yet. So that's all I have. Shout out to Chime for a good Ash game, and we'll move on to the third game: 100 Thieves versus Immortals, and this is where 100 Thieves plays that gif of the football player. I think I got my swagger back.
Yeah, man. First, let's start by saying that it's hard. Again, it's hard to say anything about Immortals. And let me. I. How do you care? 0 and
E.
3, 3 and 3, 0 and 3, 1 and 3, 0 0 from
Mm-hmm.
Lulu with three
Mm-hmm.
assists in a 28-minute game.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, man, first and foremost, the draft gap here. And you know what? Let me revise that. I don't even think it's a draft. Just a draft gap. Just what a really good draft from 100 Thieves.
Yes.
You get closer on Sejuani.
Yep.
You get double lift back on Zeri, and he is the best Zeri in North America. I have a hard time arguing against him being one of the best Zeris on the world stage because that's his champ. Um, and to be such a new champ, for him able to find that comfort with her, and obviously Zeri's insane, and we recognize that.
Yep.
But 4-0, 4-0 up against Tactical, who's yeah, I mean we've already touched on Tactical. Well played to double lift. Great game from Bjergsen on Victor. Obviously, like I said, closer on Sejuani. Tenacity on Renekton. Yeah, Tenacity's gonna have to take a look in the mirror, man.
he
That was rough.
yeah,
Now,
he out damaged closer Sejuani by 200.
yeah, so
So
that's something that is a little concerning to me.
I agree.
Now, when you get 4 out of the 5 right, okay,
Right.
but when you get 4 out of the 5 right, when you're a team like 100 Thieves and you're expected, honestly, let's not kid ourselves. They're expected to compete for this split.
Yes.
Um, if you're
100%.
gonna get 4 or 5 right against whoever, yeah, that may not work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that may not work. And I don't. This is not a doom moment for 100 Thieves. Like let's tap the brakes. But that's something to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Now, Busio on Yumi. Now Yumi Zeri's broken. There's no real way around it. Let me just say though that we talked game one about their draft not working, and the Azir pick was, I mean they were trolling. Um, yeah, the Yumi Zeri works.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a hard time believing that it's not gonna work unless you just start banning it out.
Yeah.
Because now you just if you ban out Yumi, Zeri's still relevant. But if you ban out Zeri, it's still double lift. He's still gonna be able to pull out somebody. Um, and I think that's a concern you have to have. But yeah, man, I just we give a shout out last game to Chime. I want to give a shout out to Busio, who's a young guy.
Yep.
Um, kind of had to fight for this spot, from my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just well played to him. 2-1-10 on Yumi. 4-0 from double lift, like I said. Bjergsen with a 2-0, 9 assists. That's those 9 big assists, by the way. Um, Closer 4-0, and Tenacity, like I mentioned, 0-3. A really good game from 100 Thieves. This was never really a game. Again, they didn't even need Soul to win this thing. You had the Baron buff for 100 Thieves, but uh, yeah, this was an ass beating.
Yeah.
Um, Tactical looked awful. Everybody. Immortals is just bad. I don't know how many times we can beat that point down, but yeah, man. I'm a 100 Thieves guy. I'm a Hoodie org supporter. And that really comes back to Nade's shot and his history and stuff like that. But um, really good match from 100 Thieves. I'm still not sold because I did write down that I still saw some shakiness from 100 Thieves while they were grouped.
Mm-hmm.
Especially around Dragon, there were a couple fights that I was not sold on.
Okay.
Just a little, just disjointed, a little uncoordinated. Um, so that's something to keep an eye on because we were so used to 100 Thieves being incredible with their previous 5 in team fights.
Yeah.
In fact, that was their bread and butter.
Yep.
So that's something to keep an eye on. But again, new roster, they'll figure it out. But yeah, man, really good game from 100 Thieves there.
Yeah. Bjergsen's filthy on Victor. That's the kind of mage that he has really kind of settled into in his like post TSM career, even late in his TSM career. He's shifted away from the old assassin meta, and he's just a great mage player. He's a solid, you know, all around KDA player that'll help the team out. And yeah, he just does what he does. He had a great flank with Victor. He had like he TP'd in from base to a bot lane fight. He had like 50% mana, and he only had uh, enough mana to drop like ultimate and Victor W, which was the stun, and he still managed to stun somebody. It was really impressive. He looked really good. I think he got a Q in there as well. But yeah, Doublelift playing Zeri, it's a little like the modern day Vayne, which is what he used to be known for back in the day. And I mean, you just see the way that champions have evolved in 10 years of game design and stuff. So yeah, this was just a get right game for 100 Thieves. There was really never any doubt that they're gonna lose this one to Immortals, and it's gonna be a long split for Immortals. Let's just be honest. Fleshy, their support doesn't look like uh, he deserves a spot here in the
No, you
LCS.
probably slot me in.
Yeah, Kenvi doesn't have much to work with. I mean, he's the only one getting kills on Wukong, and tactical, like we said earlier, is probably about done.
Yeah.
So yeah, they Immortals did a budget TSM draft here. They picked the Ornn and the Azir mid. They're probably watching the game backstage and were like, "Hey, that worked for them. I don't know, but maybe it'll work for us." And nope, not even close. So next is another stomping of the last game of the day. It
Speaking of
really,
not close.
really day two. 3 out of 5 games stomps, and then two very close like pretty close bangers. So
Yeah.
relatively more of a boring day compared to the first day, just because the outcomes were so predetermined and decided. And I mean, Dignitas is they're gonna be struggling, but Prince looked like he was smurfing. I mean, the LCK Ezreal is filthy. I mean, he was doing things that I only wish I could do on Israel. I mean, it was incredible. Vikla had a great Silas game. And speaking of, so we talked a little bit earlier about Fudge and his Cassante pick. You know, Impact doesn't have as much of an impact, get it, on Cassante this game, but it
Okay.
wasn't really his game to have to have any I just want to say it all the time. I just want to keep saying impact. It wasn't wasn't really his game. It was more on Spica. I mean, 109 on this Maokai. And I think if you're playing FlyQuest, you got to ban it. You're looking at 2 games where Spica's 2-0 on Maokai and he looks unkillable. He is unkillable and he's got assists all over the place. Santorin played Sejuani into it and just couldn't get anything going. The Olaf wasn't a factor at all. Spawn on Varus, just atrocious. Biofrost, I mean, they were outmatched, outlaned all game. And a lot of people say the support makes the AD carry. In this case, I think the AD carry is making the support. Prince is playing out of his mind, and he's really special to watch. And I'm really excited to continue to watch this FlyQuest team over the split. And like I said, at this point, they're my favorites. I think all 5 members are um, basically at their peak positions in the whole thing. The impact fudge argument is definitely going to be popular. I think Speak of Blabber is also going to be a really good comparison. I think right now I'm going to give it's hard to give the edge to Vikla over Diplex because of Vikla's day 1 game on Azir. Um, Diplex, I think, might have the upper hand in that matchup. But we'll have to see because Vikla on Silas versus maybe like a Diplex Akali, that would be a very exciting game, I think. And Prince versus Berserker is going to be so much fun to watch. I'm really excited for that. And then Winsome versus Sven, I'll probably give the edge to Sven. So C9's got 2 guys I'd probably give the edge over FlyQuest on. But yeah, like I said, I cannot wait for that game. But this game, like I said, 16-3, 29-minute game. Dignitas is, I mean, they're in the trenches right now. They're gonna be taking a good long look in the mirror after this 0-2 start to this week. And You can't if you're a team like Dignitas, it's really just about that day one. You can't lose a game to CLG. I mean, this roster's not. It's they didn't make this roster to lose games to those kinds of teams. The FlyQuest game, yeah, like maybe you lose to that team, but to lose like this is embarrassing. And this Jensen Santorin combo, I just I don't see it. I don't see what the vision is. I haven't seen anything from Spawn to make me think he's gonna perform in any capacity. And I don't know if bringing Ignar into this team changes much. I mean, Ignar is a very aggressive initiator, so maybe him and Santorin can make plays. Ignar also roams a lot. Ignar will be mid, Ignar will be top. Maybe they can get Armut going. Maybe they can get Jensen going. And Ignar and Santorin will just play that support style and Spawn can just kind of stay in the back line, do damage, while Jensen and Armut, kind of front line and clean up fights. But if I'm a Dignitas fan, I'm definitely worried, and this is not the start you want to see. And I'll let you go off of that.
No, I mean it's I think again with Dignitas, I'm still gonna stick in the wait and see camp. Because of the roster they have. You have a lot of veteran presence on that team, and I think that that's something that you have to actually take into account. Um, but you look over at FlyQuest, man, and to have Casante be a non-factor, the state that he is in, and to still see this be such a lopsided match says a lot about FlyQuest. You have the speaker factor. Really, this is a team gap,
Yeah.
and this is really the only team this week in both games we're able to say complete and total team gap. Uh, these are two ass beatings, and I think that that's something that we're going to see over the course of the season. If they're able to keep that up, okay, then it's not really going to be that close of a split. But if you see some games like C9 had against 100 Thieves, okay, maybe FlyQuest will drop a couple here and there. I want to see FlyQuest against the top talent because we really didn't, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, man, I'm Speaka. It's hard to put it any other way. I love this Victor performance. Yeah, the LCK Ezreal from Prince. That's the different. That really is the difference in the game. Um, you got Winston stat padding down there thanks to Ezreal. But yeah, man, you look across at 1-2, 1-3, 1-3, 0-4, 0-3. Dignitas, if you can't put together anything before 30 minutes to keep yourselves in the game, yeah, you're not going to do much in this league. Um, I do think they're probably better than a team like Immortals. Um, I think you can take that Spider-Man meme and put the Dignitas and Team Liquid logos on it right now, so they can look at each other because they both have to take a look um, in the reflection here and say maybe we need to move some stuff around. Maybe we need to adjust some problems. Because if they don't, you're going to see Dignitas and Team Liquid at the bottom of this league, and that's frankly shocking. More so, obviously, for Team Liquid, but Dignitas should not be awful. They should not be bad. They should be middle of the road, and I think that's the roster that we see. We'll see this week if they're able to string anything together at all. But yeah, man, really impressive from FlyQuest. I agree with you. I think they're my favorites this split so far,
Mhm.
but it's early. And that's something that is still to be seen if they're able to stay as complete as they are. If C9's able to work out some of those early kinks they had against 100 Thieves, and I think that they did.
Mhm.
But then you also got to look at 100 Thieves as well. And you got to look at CLG, baby. CLG might just be back.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, you're gonna have a fun race for top four. Um, and I'm really interested to see if FlyQuest is able to live up to the hype, man. Because let me say this, it feels different around FlyQuest. The org seems a little bit different. The bits and the social media team seems a little more different. They seem a little more. There's a little confidence there. They're not just trolling. They're not just trying to be spoiler.
Mhm.
This team came to win. They did not come to play. They came to win, and
Mhm.
that's something I'm so excited to watch over the course of the split.
Me too.
But yeah, man. Overall, obviously they look the best this week, and we'll see what they are able to cook up over the next couple weeks.
Yep. So real quick before we close this thing down, close out for the night. Our week 2 schedule. It's a lot of rematches from week 1. Starting the week again, 100 Thieves Cloud 9. So we'll see if 100 Thieves can kind of figure something out, and if Cloud9 will be tested by what's supposed to be an equal. Um, we've got Golden Guardians versus EG. Hopefully, EG is figuring their stuff out and should, if they have it all figured out, stomp Golden Guardians. FlyQuest versus Team Liquid. Now, I'm not, we're worried about Team Liquid, but this could be Team Liquid's coming out party. If they show a good game against FlyQuest, that might just turn this split around for them. Got CLG versus Dig. This is a Dignitas must win, in my opinion. If they lose again to CLG, they're looking at Liquid on that next day, and if Liquid plays that a good close game against FlyQuest, then you could look at it 0-4. This 0-4 Dignitas is very possible right now. Same with Liquid. 0-4 Liquid is possible. I mean, at this point, Dig and Team Liquid, it's anybody's game. You know, those are two teams that I think are relatively uh, in the same boat. I think team wise. TSM is playing Immortals again. I mean, like we said, that should be 3-0 TSM. And then FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves. That'll be another good game. I think FlyQuest has some games that they could be tested this upcoming week. TSM CLG is going to be a banger, I think. EG Cloud9. This day 2 is really stacked. I mean, the first 3 games are going to be really good. And then you end the day, of course, with, Dig, Liquid, and Immortals versus Golden Guardians, which is, not ideal, but at least you're getting the good games in early, and then you can have fun on Friday night, go out to a bar or something, enjoy yourself. So that's all we got for now. My closing thoughts are just it was an entertaining first week. I was happy with the product I was able to watch. What do you've got?
Yeah, I was definitely entertained. And we gave our shout outs to the production team because I do think that's justified. Um, but I also think that we're left with a lot of questions on the game side of things, or on the team side of things. We'll see on Dignitas and TSM. Um, I want to see if CLG can keep it up. I'm frankly I'm most interested in CLG
Okay.
because they just looked like a lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
and they were able to be consistent, even if that was a comeback win against EG. Yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. And as somebody who's still fairly new to all this, 3.5 years in now, this is one of those things that I'm able to like actually sit down and say, man, I'm locked in. And after these last couple games, on Thursday and Friday, I feel the same way. I had a lot of fun,
Me
and I
too.
think that this is a league that if you want to retain your viewership, these scrappy little teams like FlyQuest, who are probably going to dominate this split, you got to have that, man. You got to have these stories and these narratives,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm super excited for that, man. But yeah, we're left with a lot of questions. That's really, I can break it down as much as I want. That's what I have. A lot of questions, a lot of shakiness that I saw, and that maybe that is first week jitters, but that's still to be seen. But yeah, man, overall, well done. Well done to the LCS this first week. Really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm super excited for Thursday.
Me too. And I think my last thought is I think the reason you're feeling that way is because I think this split, there's a lot of parity within the teams. There is arguably no clear super team. No
Yeah,
roster that went out and said, we're making a super team, like Liquid in the past, like 100 Thieves, like TSM in the past, like Cloud9 in the past. Nobody, because of budgets for the teams, not for the LCS, but budgets for the team have tightened a little bit because player salaries have gotten out of control. And we see a lot more parity, and you see scrappy teams, CLG, TSM, FlyQuest, 2-0, good teams. So I'm
yeah,
excited, man. We'll be back next week with our week 2 breakdown. And hopefully y'all enjoyed. This is probably a longer video, probably like an hour or something plus at least.
yeah.
So more of a podcasty type. Throw it on, listen to while you're working or driving or whatever. But Tucker, thank you for joining me on this. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did as well. And I'm looking forward to next week.
All right, man. Y'all take care.
All right.